If you've ever been told your cholesterol is too high and you need a statin, stop. Because what you're about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about heart attacks, plaque, and what's actually happening inside your arteries. And yes, there's something you can eat, or rather, take, that research suggests may actually help reverse the most dangerous type of plaque. Not just slow it down. Reverse it. But first, we need to clear up a massive misunderstanding. One that most doctors won't take the time to explain. And by the end of this, you'll understand your own cardiovascular risk better than most people who've been seeing a cardiologist for years. Here's the thing. Almost no one tells you a heart attack is not caused by an artery slowly filling up with plaque until it's completely blocked. That's the image most people have, like a pipe getting clogged. But that's not what typically happens. What actually triggers a heart attack is a rupture. A small amount of unstable plaque breaks open, your immune system panics, creates a blood clot, and that clot is what kills you. So the question isn't just how much plaque do you have? The real question is, what kind? There are two types of plaque. Hard plaque, calcified, stable, not going anywhere. In most cases, it just sits there. It's not ideal, but it's not the ticking time bomb. Then there's soft plaque. Unstable. Inflammatory. And this is the one that ruptures. You can have a relatively small amount of soft plaque, say 20%, and still have a fatal heart attack. Meanwhile, someone with heavy calcified plaque might live another 30 years without incident. This distinction matters enormously. And most standard cholesterol tests tell you absolutely nothing about it. Speaking of cholesterol, let's talk about what's actually going on there, because this is where the confusion really starts. When you go to the doctor and get a standard lipid panel, you're getting total cholesterol, HDL and LDL. You've probably heard that LDL is bad and HDL is good. HDL carries cholesterol from the tissues back to the liver. That part's accurate. But LDL? It's not one thing. There are two types of LDL particles. Large, buoyant LDL. These float through the arteries without causing damage. They're essentially harmless. And then there's small, dense LDL. These are the troublemakers. They're small enough to get stuck in the arterial wall. And once they're stuck, things get ugly fast. Your standard LDL number doesn't separate these two. It lumps them together, which is why that number is often misleading. If you want to actually understand your cardiovascular risk, ask your doctor for an advanced lipid panel or NMR lipid profile, one that shows you particle size. That's the data that actually matters. Now here's where it gets really interesting. UCLA conducted a study with over 135,000 heart attack patients, and 75% of them had normal LDL. Normal. So if cholesterol were really the cause, how do you explain that? You can't. Because cholesterol isn't the root cause. It's downstream. It's a symptom of something else happening much earlier. So what's actually happening upstream? Inside every artery, there's an incredibly thin lining called the endothelium. Think of it like a protective coating. It regulates blood flow, produces nitric oxide to help arteries expand and contract, and keeps anything from getting into the arterial wall. When this lining is healthy, everything flows. When it gets damaged, the whole cascade begins. And what damages it? Chronic high insulin from years of excess carbohydrate intake. Smoking. Certain additives and seed oils found in ultra-processed foods. These act like sandpaper on that delicate inner lining, irritating it, roughing it up, creating tiny wounds. Your immune system responds by sending white blood cells to repair the damage. But here's where cholesterol enters the story, not as the villain, but as a bystander that gets caught in the wrong place. The small, dense LDL particles get trapped in that inflamed arterial wall. White blood cells called macrophages rush in and start eating them. And they don't stop. They gorge on oxidized LDL until they become what researchers call foam cells, bloated, dysfunctional immune cells that eventually die. Underneath the thin cap of soft plaque, you don't just find cholesterol. You find a graveyard of dead white blood cells, calcium acting as a patch, and oxidized lipids. It's an immune reaction. A statin lowers your LDL number, but it does nothing for the foam cells, nothing for the immune response, nothing for the root cause. It's treating a reading on a piece of paper while the real problem continues. And about statins, there was a widely cited study claiming they're much safer than previously thought, with only about a 5% risk of muscle problems. Sounds reassuring until you look closer. The organization behind the study, the CTT, has received over $200 million from pharmaceutical companies. Significant conflict of interest. They also refused to release the raw data from the study, despite years of requests. That alone should give you pause. But the most troubling part is something called the run-in period. Before the actual trial begins, all participants are put on the statin. Those who experience side effects are then removed from the study before randomization even starts. So the people most likely to react badly are screened out before the data is collected. What you end up with is a study population that's been pre-selected for tolerability. The results are biased by design. Statins also block the production of CoQ10, a critical compound your mitochondria depend on. The heart is one of the most energy-demanding organs in the body. Depleting CoQ10 while treating a heart condition is, at minimum, something worth asking your doctor about. So what actually works? What does the research say may help with soft plaque specifically? This is the part that surprised me when I first came across it. Aged black garlic extract. Not regular garlic, aged black garlic extract. There are 2 randomized controlled trials using 2,400 milligrams per day, with angiogram studies confirming the results. Not just stabilization of soft plaque, actual reduction. The research suggests it may help not just slow the process, but potentially reverse it in a meaningful way. That's remarkable. It also appears to have a moderate blood pressure lowering effect, acts as an antioxidant, and may help with blood viscosity. If you're already on blood thinners, talk to your doctor before adding this. Those effects can interact. Regular garlic, the kind you crush and eat, is genuinely useful for blood pressure and circulation. But it hasn't shown the same specific effect on soft plaque. The aging and fermentation process changes the compounds in ways that matter. Beyond aged garlic, there are a few other things worth knowing. Magnesium. Consistently overlooked, consistently important. It supports mitochondrial function, helps regulate arterial tone, and, critically, may help control excess calcium deposits in the arteries. Many people are chronically low in magnesium without knowing it. Cod liver oil rather than generic fish oil, because you also get vitamin A and vitamin D, which have their own roles in cardiovascular and immune health. Research suggests omega-3s may help with soft plaque reduction as well, though the effect appears smaller than aged garlic. Exercise, especially outdoors, supports nitric oxide production, which directly benefits that endothelial lining we talked about. Even moderate daily movement matters. And then there's the dietary piece. Excess carbs convert to triglycerides in the liver. Elevated triglycerides drive up small, dense LDL production. That's the chain. Intermittent fasting addresses this from another angle, reducing chronic insulin elevation, lowering systemic inflammation, and improving insulin sensitivity over time. Here's the summary of what actually matters. The dangerous type of plaque is soft plaque, not calcified, hard plaque. Soft plaque ruptures, triggers a clot, and causes heart attacks. Standard LDL testing doesn't tell you about particle size, which is the actual risk factor. The root cause is upstream, endothelial damage, chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and excess small dense LDL driven by high carbohydrate intake. At the start of this video, you probably thought cholesterol was the main story. Now you know it's a small chapter in a much longer book. And the most important chapters, the ones happening years before symptoms appear, are largely under your control. One thing you can do tomorrow: ask your doctor to run an advanced lipid panel that includes LDL particle size. That single piece of information tells you far more than your standard cholesterol number ever could. Have you ever been put on a statin or had a doctor suggested based on your LDL without ever discussing particle size? I'd genuinely like to know. Drop it in the comments. These conversations matter, and I read them. And if this kind of content is useful to you, the kind that goes upstream instead of just managing symptoms, subscribing means you'll see it when it comes out. The information in this video is based on published research and is meant to inform, not to replace medical advice.